Get ready to stand on guard for the
Prohibition is over, Saskatchewan. Ask Lucky Bastard today how you can make Canada's ultimate Caesar, True North and Strong. Featuring Lucky Bastard's premium dill pickle vodka, LB's famous bacon rimmer, and bacon bitters. It's not a Caesar if it's not Lucky Bastard. Order online or stop by 814 47th Street East. And tonight, why not mix your Caesar with some Lucky Bastard?
Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network and the official podcast of Left Wing Lock, your number one source for fantasy hockey intelligence. I'm Devin Davidson, your host. With me, as always, Bruce Gunther.
Hello.
There he is. There you go. It's just the two of us tonight. We got Tyler is on IR of some sort. We're not really sure what's going on with him. John may make an appearance. I don't know. We didn't hear anything from him. And then our condolences go out to Mike and his family. They had a death in the family, so we won't be hearing from him this evening. But you get Bruce and I, so there's your consolation prize for this evening. Episode number 102. Fantasy hockey preview for week number 20. This episode is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers. The Hacks are a proud partner of LB Distillers, opened in 2012 and inspired from a lottery win. Lucky Bastard Distillers is proud to be the first distillery to operate in Saskatoon since Prohibition. Home of Canada's ultimate Caesar. Mix your drink tonight with Lucky Bastard. Use promo code HockeyHacks to get 15% off your next online order. Shipping available across Canada. So, Bruce, what you're telling me is you're not going to accept my trade of Ehlers and Krug for Letang.
No, I'm not.
Come on.
No.
Okay. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly.
All right. Let's just jump right into John's list here. So, for anyone who's new to the show, this is just John's shit list of players past and present, as well as interesting and current topics from around the hockey world. It started off as actually being John's list, but we've been seeing less and less of him recently, so we're just calling it's still John's list, but I'm just throwing shit out there and seeing what sticks. This week, the Edmonton Oilers really pissed me off. Bruce, I feel like I'm going fucking insane. It's honestly the definition of insanity. Every time you tune in, you think there's going to be a different result. And instead, the Oilers go 1-1-4 in their last 6 contests against Philly, Montreal, Detroit, New York, Colorado. 3 or 4 of those games went to overtime or a shootout. The Oilers lost. I read, or TSN was reporting today, the Edmonton Oilers are just the 10th team in league history. Like, the NHL has been around for a while, Bruce. And the Edmonton Oilers are just the 10th iteration of a team that has lost 3 consecutive starts after holding a 3-goal advantage in those games. Making history for all the wrong reasons, the Edmonton Oilers this week.
Which is why I made the comment last week why Erik Karlsson is not the problem, unless they're going back to the 1980s version of the Oilers where they're going to attempt to outscore their problems. The Oilers can't defend to save their lives.
Yeah, it's been really, really ugly. And to make things worse, I read earlier today, Dylan Holloway is now injured. He got injured. Yeah. Well, they said in the minors, maybe he was injured before he went down. I don't know, but so he's going to be out for a bit here.
I read a month.
Yep. So that's not ideal. And Evander Kane also did not play recently.
Yeah, I read that too. Like and two, I'd also read he hadn't thrown a hit in 5 games.
But he fought in one of his recent games here too, so
maybe that had something to do with it.
Could.
So a good way of understanding the Edmonton Oilers' defensive woes. Connor McDavid has 102 points now, 103 points. I think on the season.
Okay.
He's +2.
Oof,
plus
rough.
2. Like, that's brutal. Really, it is. It's brutal.
Could be better. It could be better for sure.
There
But
should be at least a 2 or a 3 in front of that too, like you would think, but they can't defend.
Yeah, you'd like that. But I mean, he does get other teams' best competition, right? He's facing the best defenseman every single night.
Even still, though, like his plus minus. I realize it's a terrible stat. Like Draisaitl's a -3.
Yeah,
and he's got 81, 82 points. Like,
not ideal. Not ideal. I mean, they've got lots of issues. Jack Campbell, he's averaging something like 3 or 4 goals a game against this season. Like he's just he played well actually in these last few stretches. It's just some of these goals, there's unlucky bounces, and that's going to happen. But they've got to find ways. Like when you're up 3-0, 4-1, you can't lose 6-5 in overtime. Like you're not going to win anything in the playoffs playing like that.
No, and I don't know. I didn't see any of the games. I just saw like the highlights, but I don't know if you could pin all those losses on Skinner or Campbell. I think the problem lies in front of him as opposed to being just them.
Yeah, they've got plenty of issues. I'm not pinning it on one guy here. I mean, in the shootout is such a joke. I'm so tired of watching it. Like, and Edmonton just, for whatever reason, they can't get it done in the shootout. Pretty much, like, for the amount of the level of talent they have, and they can't figure it out, drives me insane. They used to be automatic in overtime, and lately they've just been anything but.
Well, I read since the All-Star break, they have not won a game in overtime. Where before, like you said, before the All-Star break, it used to be automatic.
Well, like Draisaitl and McDavid, right? And it'd be over in 3 minutes, and it was just yeah. So I don't know. Going back to your comments about Erik Karlsson, yeah, I'd love to see Erik Karlsson in an Oilers uniform, but there's some things there that concern me too, right? So obviously, the cap hit for 4 years, if you can get it down to 6.9 or 6.7 million, whatever it was, I think it's manageable, Bruce, with the cap going up, but they need to get better defensively too. And so whether that's in the bottom 6, if that's other defensemen, like they need to address some other areas of the game, right?
Yeah, and they played short too one of these games, right? They only played with 19 one game, I think. Was that yesterday's game? Because Kane and Costin were out.
Yeah.
They called up Shore, but I think they were still playing a player short because of this lovely salary cap they've got themselves messed up in.
Well, and that is one thing to mention too, is they haven't been playing fully healthy during the stretch of games. Like they have had some guys out. But I don't know. I just don't have any excuses for these guys at this point. If I'm looking at it at the deadline, I would like to see some more depth up front. So maybe at this point you kind of go, like, we need an additional forward. I don't know who that is. I know Patrick Kane's been floated. I know Tyler Bertuzzi's been floated out there. They need to add something to the group up front. Max Domi, they've been talking about Lafferty out of Chicago. Someone who can kill penalties and maybe add some offense too.
That would be good.
Right? Like, Ryan O'Reilly would have been a great... Like, you look at that trade. Ryan O'Reilly and Nola Chari.
Yeah.
Toronto brings in Minnesota. Like, Minnesota... How do they have any room to take on 25% of that? Like, it just...
and it's just the rest of the season, right? So it's not...
Right, but, like, that's not a team I would have thought that's going to take on any cap, and here we are, right? Like, so Ken Holland needs to get creative. I've said this a couple times now. I'm tired of hearing him say dollars in, dollars out. Other teams are making it work.
Yeah. I was thinking about this during the week, and this might be a bit of a tangent. It's like, Holland seems to want to be able to win now, but he doesn't want to give anything away. Like, he doesn't want to give away a first round pick. He doesn't want to deal prospects away. So I'm questioning on whether he is in win now mode. I think he's kind of like, we're going to wait and see mode. Like, at least the way they've played in the last few games here, I definitely wouldn't be in win now mode. Like, if you're in win now mode, you're making some moves. You want this team to make a push, and right now they ain't doing nothing to help themselves.
But I think part of this too, Bruce, and I'm just speculating, but I think the team is kind of trying to send a message to the GM here, like, because they are playing bad. This is some of the worst hockey I've seen from them in a while.
Yeah, it's not good. I
think they're just sitting here going, we're gonna sit on our hands, Ken, until you make a fucking move. Like, do something.
Yeah, and then and being Holland the way he is, he'll probably trade for Carlson at some point, sell the farm, and then won't even make the playoffs.
Could you imagine?
Like, well, as they sit right now, I think they're in either the first or the second wild card spot. I think now.
Yeah.
So they're in a playoff spot, but the way they're playing, they're not going to be in a playoff spot for long because although Seattle and Calgary both lost today in regulation, so that was a help for Edmonton. But
So they're
sure, which team in the Pacific is the bigger train wreck? Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vegas. It's like, who's the biggest train wreck right now in the West? It just seems like there's dumpster fires up and down the coast.
I think, honestly, based on expectations coming into this season, it has to be Calgary. They're 5 points back of Edmonton right now for the first wild card spot.
Yeah.
So based on what we saw, like for Markstrom and everybody else last year, I'd say Calgary has to be the biggest disappointment at this point. Seattle, honestly, they're exceeding expectations right now.
Yeah, they're playing with house money, I think, is what they're doing. But man, they're squandering some opportunities though. Like, it's,
you know what, they need to stop playing Martin Jones. I think the Martin Jones experiment is over in Seattle. Stop it. Like, I looked at his last four games.
He's been terrible.
Awful. 826, 815, 857, and an 892 save percentage. Those are his last four starts, going back to January 27th.
And he gave up 4 today to San Jose. Like the team that well, I guess he went to Philly before that, but still, like, you would think, but yeah.
I just don't like, if you're Seattle, you're trying to win games, you're in a tight division race here, you let Grubauer just take the reins until he shows he can't, right? Like,
yeah,
don't play him on back-to-backs and stuff, but he's been really good for them in the last 4 games he's played. I think he's won 3 of 4, and his numbers have been good. And so we'll talk about him in the waiver wire section of the podcast here, but yeah, Martin Jones, every time he's let in 4 more goals in every single start going back to January 27th.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just been.
I think we can move on from that. Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah. Next.
side. Yeah, just a complete tangent there. But the Edmonton Oilers on the list this week. So let's move on to Fantasy Lock of the Week, February 13th through the 19th. I begrudgingly went with Nathan McKinnon. He had a great week. Tim Stützle was obviously the other guy that I was going to look at here, but I think we just talked. He was just a lock of the week not that long ago, so I decided to go a different direction. McKinnon, 12 points and 5 goals in his last 5 games played. He is shooting at an outrageous 5.4 shots on goal per game. He's on pace for a career best 125 points and 35 goals. 9 points, 3 goals, 1 game winner, 1 power play point, 28 shots on goal, +6, 71% power play share, and over 23 minutes time on ice in 4 games played during Week 19.
And no, I'm not trading him to you.
That's okay. That's okay. I've already got Rantanen and Makar, so that's okay.
Oh, Makar's hurt again.
That guy. Okay, well, Bruce, headlines with the Hacks for February 13th to the 19th. Take it away.
All right, so we started off with some news that the Red Wings recalled Jacob Vrana from the AHL, which was quite a bit of a surprise considering all the drama that surrounded him when he went down to the AHL. He is yet to play in a game since his call-up, but as one scribe put, they got to take somebody out to put him in the way that the other players are playing right now. No one's really playing bad enough to take one out to put him in. So, but he is with the NHL. He is with the Red Wings now, so we'll see what happens here with him and down the road.
So, speaking of the Red Wings, Bruce, just to interject for a second.
Yeah.
They are 4 points back of a wild card spot in the East. And Stevie Y has already come out and said that they are not putting Tyler Bertuzzi up on the trade block because they think they could push for a playoff spot. But the teams ahead of them right now are Buffalo, Washington, Pittsburgh, Florida, and somehow the Islanders have 65 points. But, I mean, if you're Detroit, are you really going to make a push for the playoffs this year? Like, I just don't understand the reasoning there. I know you don't want to give up, on a season, but even if you get into the playoffs, like, are you going to go anywhere?
Maybe not, but for the Red Wings to make the playoffs, I think would be a big thing for them. Considering how the past few years have gone,
Sure.
I think if they could just make the playoffs. So yeah, they pull a Nashville in the first round, and it's 8 wasted days, as Mr. Sutter aptly put last year for whoever was going to play Colorado. But
Yeah.
if they just even make the playoffs, that's I think that's a win for Detroit this year. So I don't have any issue. And you look at the teams ahead of them. Washington's been all over the place. Florida's been a shell of themselves. Buffalo, who knows which team is going to show up which night? Some night they're fantastic. The other night they should be playing in the WHL. There's a very real possibility there. They could squeak in.
I would be shocked. I'm not betting against Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins, or even Florida for that matter. I agree with you, Bruce. Yeah. They've been a shell of themselves. But, it's a long shot for Detroit anyway, I think.
Yeah. Out of that group, the team that'll be toughest to beat will be Pittsburgh. But the rest of them, Florida hasn't shown a whole lot of consistency this year after their shake-up in that. Although they are going to get Duclair back here by the end of the week, it sounds like.
Yes. Yep. Okay, sorry, I sidetracked you again.
No,
move on.
Tangent. Squirrel. Not really fantasy relevant, but I thought I would add this. So Mikey Anderson signed an 8-year contract with the contract extension, with the LA Kings, worth $4.125 million per season. Anderson had 13 points in 55 games so far this season with them. He's been more of a shutdown defender for them, but that is an 8-year deal. That's not something they hand out lightly, and gives the Kings decor some consistency back there.
He is still on my shit list after last year's playoff series.
Which is part of the reason why I put him on the news for today.
Moving on.
So, as we learned earlier this week, Alexander Ovechkin took a leave of absence from the Capitals. His father passed away this past Wednesday. We extend our condolences to Alex and his family. I think news came out today that he could be returning to Washington from Russia as early as Tuesday. I don't know if that's when he's going to be back in the lineup, but he said he could be back in Washington as early as tomorrow.
That's interesting because the early reports were that he was going to be away from the team for the foreseeable future, right? It was kind of, I expected it to be like weeks for sure.
It's kind of what I had thought too, but I saw that today. So I saw it on Twitter. So again, take that with a grain of salt too, right?
Yeah.
But, hey, the Leafs made a trade.
They sure did.
Maple Leafs acquired Ryan O'Reilly and Nolan Akari in a 3-team trade from St. Louis. So the Leafs get O'Reilly and Akari from St. Louis. St. Louis receives Mikhail Abramov and Adam Gaudette, along with the Leafs' 2023 first-round pick, Ottawa's 2023 third-round pick, and the Leafs' second-round selection in 2024. The third team in this trade is the Minnesota Wild. They get the Leafs' 2025 fourth-round pick, and they retain 25% of O'Reilly's salary. The St. Louis Blues are going to retain 50% of O'Reilly's salary. Dubas is going all in for win this year.
He needs to, because if the Leafs get bounced in the first round again, he's gone.
I think if the Leafs get bounced in the first round this year, there's going to be some major changes in Toronto. Major.
Yeah. Kind of the early chatter is that the Blues made out like bandits on this one. I really like this trade for the Leafs. Like, I think O'Reilly's, he's a great fit for them. Whether he plays at third line center or like we saw in his first game, he played on that second line with Tavares and Marner. And so from a fantasy perspective, I have O'Reilly and I kind of was holding on to him, hoping he get traded. And that worked out pretty well.
He landed in a really good spot. I think his fantasy value goes up. Even if he's on the third line for the Leafs, I think he's still in a better spot than he would have been in St. Louis now without Tarasenko and
Yeah, because St. Louis is selling off. And one thing people should remember is O'Reilly wasn't playing power play 1 so much in St. Louis, despite people leaving, right? He was still getting
Yeah.
power play 2 time quite regularly. And
Yeah.
but he won 86% of his draws, Bruce, in his first game with the Leafs. I think he won 12 draws.
Yeah.
That's huge. And for the Leafs, getting a player that can win faceoffs like that going into the playoffs, that's big.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Akari, not really a fantasy relevant player, but for the Leafs bottom 6, that's also an improvement in their bottom 6 as well.
I believe he had, was it like, I'll have to go back and check. I thought he had like 5 shots and 5 hits in his first game in like 14 minutes of ice time.
That's awesome.
So that's
for,
what you
for
want.
a bottom 6 guy. That's good.
That's fantastic, right? You just want someone who's going to go and muck it up and put some pucks on the net, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I think it is Achari, by the way.
Achari?
Achari, FYI.
I'm never good at pronunciation, so
I know, it's okay.
I'm sure Twitter will let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody will. All right, move on.
All right. Next one is more Edmonton Oiler news. So with an assist in the first period versus the Rangers on Friday, Connor McDavid reached the 100-point mark for the 6th time in his 8-year NHL career. So that's pretty impressive for young Mr. McDavid, even though he's only +2 on the season.
Well, I saw that graphic. I think the NHL public relations account released it, but he, like you said, 6th time in his 8th year. Nobody was really close to that, I think.
No. And one of those years was the COVID shortened season.
Yes, well, that was a big deal when he had 100 points in 50 games. But it was like on that list was Crosby. I think had 6 times hitting 100 points, right? But he did it in like 12 seasons or something. Like it's what McDavid is doing is impressive.
Oh, absolutely. And what did they say? He's 18 goals away from 16. He's got 25 games left to do it in.
Yeah,
he'll get there.
I think he'll make a point to hit 60. Right, he wants to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He'll get one more than Austin Matthews did last year.
Well,
just because.
And there'll be no reason. Like people can't say, "Oh, he didn't win the Rocket, so we can't vote him as the MVP." Like, just give me a break. He's going to win the Hart this year. He could win the Rocket. Ted Lindsay, whatever. He's going to get all the trophies, but the only one he cares about is the Stanley Cup, and so that's what they're focused on.
Yep, that's all they should be focused on.
All right, what else you got, Bruce?
All right, moving on. So the Chicago Blackhawks and Jonathan Toews announced that he will not be traded this season. Toews is still suffering the effects from long COVID and chronic immune response syndrome. And he just feels that he would not be able to play up to his full potential for any team that would be trading for him.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's tough news for him, right? He's been struggling with this, right? And it doesn't seem to be getting better for him. So
yeah,
but too, he's opening up front too. And unfortunately for the Blackhawks, that's a bit of a bummer because they could he could probably get a decent return for him.
Oh, they would have got something for sure. I mean, even if they have to retain 50% of his salary, but yeah, that's unfortunate. Tough news. I'm curious to see what he signs for next year.
And where he signs.
Yeah, like I don't really think that he's in the Blackhawks' plans, right? But I could be wrong.
If he would come back at a team-friendly number, maybe, but it depends on how he feels too, right? So if he's not feeling like he can make a consistent contribution, he may not come back.
Nope.
So, but all the best to him.
Absolutely. No, I'm still a big fan of Jonathan Toews. He's obviously struggling, but man, he was a lot of fun to watch when the Blackhawks were winning all those cups.
Absolutely. All right, on to some injury news now. So I've split this into the good, the bad, and something to keep an eye on. So we'll start with the good news. Leafs were also happy this week. Austin Matthews returned to the lineup on Wednesday. He recorded 2 points in his return, a goal and an assist. Shane Gostisbehere returned to the Coyotes lineup on Sunday. He played 22 minutes and 15 seconds with an assist and 5 shots on goal. Tristan Jarry was activated from IR today and started versus the Islanders. I haven't looked to see what the score is presently, but he currently in the net for the Penguins.
Good to have him back.
Definitely. Some bad news. We've got a bit of an update here on Anton Forsberg. After his collision with Zach Hyman here last weekend, he has MCL tears in both of his legs. So he is out for the season, unfortunately. And that was tough to watch. That was really tough to watch.
Yeah, I feel for him. It's tough. He has been so good. And just like in both legs, he may not recover, right?
It could be a tough road to hoe back for him. Yeah, definitely being a goal, maybe as a forward or as a goaltender, that's tough. It's really tough. But we'll see what happens with him.
Yep.
Islanders announced today being Monday the 20th, Matt Barzal is week to week with a lower body injury. Barzal was injured from what looks like a knee-on-knee hit by Craig Smith on Saturday versus the Bruins. The Islanders are hoping that he would return during the regular season, although there is some news floating out on Twitter that he could be done for the season, depending on how severe the injury is. This next name I am going to butcher severely, but I'm going to attempt it anyway. Montreal defenseman Arbor... Jacky?
It's Jacky, yeah.
Jacky?
Jacky, yeah.
Is out indefinitely after suffering an upper body injury versus Oilers last Sunday, so it was a week ago now. I didn't see the play or the move, but he'd been making some definite inroads on the Canadiens' defense this season, especially with their young group they have there. Mm-hmm. So he's out indefinitely. Other news here, Thatcher Demko suffered a setback in his recovery. The Canucks haven't released any details on this at all, but he is still traveling with the team. So hopefully the setback isn't that bad, and I hope he hurries back because I really need help on my fantasy team. Because I have Leafs goalies and they're either sick or injured, so I need some help.
Well, hey, maybe we can make a trade work with Grubauer.
Every goalie I pick up seems to get either sick or hurt. So, some injuries to keep an eye on. Sam Bennett's day-to-day after suffering a lower body injury on Tuesday versus the Blues. One here that Timo Meier fans are not very happy about. He suffered an upper body injury on Saturday versus the Sabres. He did not play in today's game versus the Kraken. So hopefully it's not too serious because he's high up on everybody's trade bait board. So
yeah,
see what happens there. Travis Konechny suffered an upper body injury today in their game versus the Flames. He was seen with his arm in a sling after the game. Aiden Hill suffered a quote-unquote bump versus the Lightning last night. Although Coach Cassidy said that Brossoit will be starting tomorrow night's game, that it was already a scheduled night off for Hill. He's been listed as day-to-day. Colorado Avalanche report that Gabriel Landeskog has returned to Colorado and is started skating. So that's good news for Avs fans. Landeskog has not played a game yet this season after going off-season surgery on, it was his knee, was it not?
You're quizzing me. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the injury was. I think that's right, Bruce, but
I can't remember either. Some news from Panthers. So the Florida Panthers website that reported Anthony Duclair could return to the lineup as early as this Friday. Duclair also has not played a game yet this season after tearing his Achilles tendon in the offseason. As we mentioned earlier in the podcast, Evander Kane did not play on Sunday versus the Avalanche due to an upper body injury. And Cale Makar missed Sunday's game versus the Oilers with an upper body injury. He had just returned to the Avs lineup a game before from an upper body injury. So no word if it is a new injury or if it's just a setback on his first injury, which I believe they thought was a concussion.
Yeah, I need that guy healthy.
Yeah, they definitely do. And that's it for the news.
Just going back quickly to Aiden Hill and the Vegas Golden Knights and the Lightning on Saturday. So shout out quickly to Chandel. She
Oh, yes.
tagged us in that post on Twitter. So looks like her and her husband, I think it's Matthew, they're having a good time. The seats are actually pretty good. The view from the pictures anyway looked like it was all right.
That's awesome.
And good game too. I think it was 5-4 Vegas at the end of the day. So
Very
not
good.
much more you can ask for on a Saturday night in Vegas, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Nothing for Ask the Hacks this week, Bruce. Unless you're furiously typing up a question on the fly. No. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Stand by. Why does Bruce still holding on to Binnington? That's a good question. Probably because there are no other alternatives on the waiver wire. Oh, sometimes you have no options, Bruce. Unless you want
the question, so it was just the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, well, unless you want Grubauer from Seattle.
I already have him
You don't have him in ESPN, or maybe you have him in
Yahoo.
in Yahoo. Yeah.
Yeah, I have both Binnington and Grubauer
Okay.
and Copley.
Okay. All right. As a member of the Hockey Podcast Network, the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast is a proud partner of DraftKings. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. And if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. Download the app now and sign up with promo code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. With promo code THPN, minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details. And also, Bruce, sometimes the smallest changes to your routine can make the biggest impact. In the same way, you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be a big part of a big change if it's something you use every day, like a pair of Raycon's headphones. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low-latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with battery that will last all night at your next party, Raycon has you covered. And yes, Raycon starts at half the price of other premium audio brands. So you don't even have to choose between products. You can get one of each or a pair and a spare and still pay less than you would with some of the other guys. Even if you know you'll love Raycons as much as we do, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options. Every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. We like the customizable sound profiles, earbud tap functions, noise isolation, and water and sweat resistance. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. Once more, buyraycon.com/THPN. All right, Bruce. And with that, we'll move on to Edge Work, the segment where we put in the work to give you the edge in your fantasy hockey leagues, starting with the NHL schedule for Week 20. The NHL schedule rolls on in typical fashion during Week 20, with Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday being the busiest nights of the week. There are a total of 52 games on the schedule and 4 light days. That's 50% or fewer NHL teams in action, with Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday being slower days on the schedule. In terms of optimizing the schedule, the New York Islanders and Winnipeg Jets are the only teams to play all 4 of their games on light days. There are 7 other teams that happen to play 2 of their 4 games on light days, that being Buffalo, Calgary, LA, Minnesota, New York, the Rangers, Philly, and Pittsburgh. On the flip side, there are 4 teams next week that play just twice and should be avoided if possible: Arizona, Colorado, Dallas, and Florida. According to Left Wing Lock's strength of schedule metric, the Toronto Maple Leafs have the most favorable schedule at -15. They take on Buffalo, Minnesota, and Seattle. The New York Islanders have the toughest schedule with a +12 strength of schedule rating, taking on Pittsburgh, Winnipeg, Los Angeles, and Winnipeg again. Quick recap: Monday 6 games, Tuesday 9, Wednesday 3, Thursday 10, Friday 6, Saturday 11, and Sunday 7. And with that, we'll move on to the segment that everyone looks forward to, and that is our waiver wire targets for Week 20. Starting with Mr. Boone Jenner of the Columbus Blue Jackets, 34% rostered. He's playing on that top line, Bruce, with Johnny Gaudreau and Marchenko, as well as on power play 1. He's on pace for 56 points, which would be the second highest output of his career. With 16 goals in 44 games, he's also scoring at an 82-game pace of 30 goals. The Blue Jackets captain is also shooting at a career-best 3.3 shots on goal per game and winning nearly 12 faceoffs per game. 8 points, 5 goals in his last 10 games played.
He's just been on a tear, eh?
He has. Plays a lot of minutes, covers a lot of categories. It's actually shocking he's 35% rostered.
And he's not available in either of our leagues because I looked. I'm like, I need him. Damn it.
I'm
Same
glad
could be said.
I was going to say, I'm glad you're drinking the Kool-Aid, Bruce.
Same goes for the next guy on the list.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. So as we mentioned earlier, Ryan O'Reilly, I had him previously 39% rostered last I checked, 3 games on the schedule for this week. Now, initially, my thoughts on this was with that 3-way deal, his fantasy value was really going to hinge on whether or not he was playing in the top 6 or in the bottom 6 for the Leafs. Because looking at it, it was basically David Kampf and Pierre Engvall was who was going to be kind of hitched to on the third line. And realistically, he's not going to put up much for offense playing in that position. But if he does stick with Tavares and Marner, which, in his first game, he played 16 minutes there. He looked really good right off his first shift. He had 1 assist, 2 hits. Like I said earlier, 86% of his draws. Things look good for O'Reilly.
He's what the Leafs need. Hopefully they can, for Leaf fans at least, hopefully they can get past their first round issues. And I think if they do, Ryan O'Reilly will be a big reason why that happened.
Well, and we're looking at a guy who he's won the Selke, I believe. He's won the Conn Smythe. Right, he's good on draws. He's good responsible defensively. Can still put up offense. He's a smart player. I would have loved Ryan O'Reilly for the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That would have been fantastic. But anyway, just a couple small notes about Ryan O'Reilly. 57, just about 58% IPP. That is well below what we've seen from O'Reilly during his career. Obviously, had some injury issues, and St. Louis hasn't been that great this year. He was also minus 24, which is a career low. So I think things will turn here in Toronto, but just those are a couple things to note of his time in St. Louis this season.
Yeah. That minus 24 won't be getting he won't be getting any more dashes. That number will be going up.
I would tend to
for
agree
the
with you.
Leafs.
Yep. All right. Next guy here, Alexander Barabanov out of San Jose, left wing eligible, 21% rostered, 3 games on the schedule this week. He's playing with captain Logan Couture and Esamont, as well as on the top power play unit. He's having a career season so far with 36 points and 10 goals in 51 games, just shy of a 60-point pace over 82 games. Deployment looks good. Like I said, first unit power play deployments. He should continue to be productive. 8 points, 4 goals in his last 6 games. 1.8 shots on goal is a career best for him, as is the 62% power play share he's received. His Tevish Bruce a bit high at 10.1%, but nothing to be too concerned about. And then his IPP at 58.1 could improve as well. So kind of an under-the-radar fantasy pick there.
No doubt.
Anthony Cirelli, also 21% rostered, center left wing eligible, which is always nice. 4 games on the schedule this week and some juicy matchups there against Anaheim and Detroit. And also Buffalo and Pittsburgh, as you had mentioned earlier. You're not really sure what you're getting out of those 2 teams on a night-to-night basis right now either.
Yeah.
So I like the schedule for the Tampa Bay Lightning next week. I also like that he's playing with Stamkos and Killorn. He's shooting at a career-best 2.3 shots on goal per game, and he's also winning over 53% of his draws, which is also a career high. 6 points, 3 goals in his last 4 games. His ish Bruce at 8.6 is below his 3-year and career averages of 11 and 13% respectively.
Oh, nice. So you can get a little. And 2, he missed part of the season 2 for injury, did he not?
I believe he did, yeah. So I think things are looking up for Cirelli here. Probably a guy I'd want to take a look at, especially in deep leagues.
For sure.
This guy here is one that I picked up myself personally. And I'm going to confirm some of these percentages because they don't look right. But 21% rostered for Michael Backlund. Well, they're all 3 of them are 21%. So I'll get these fixed up in the notes at the website, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. But Michael Backlund's been on a tear. So he's got 4 games next week. He's playing on the third line, but He's been red hot since December, Bruce. December 27th, since then, he's posted 20 points, 6 goals in his last 22 games played.
Wow.
Yeah, nice production out of him. Calgary has an intriguing 4-game schedule this week. Lots of potential to generate offense with matchups against Philly and Arizona. Vegas, who you had just mentioned, they may have lost Hill for a game or two, potentially. Laurent Brossoit, who knows how he's going to come in and play. Colorado a bit inconsistent right now, so that's and they need to win, right? They're fighting for their playoff lives, so
Definitely.
it should also be noted that Bruce just updated my numbers here, so 32% roster for Backlund, not 21%, so thank you for that, and 16% for Anthony Cirelli. So look at you, Bruce.
Got to try and be helpful somehow.
I appreciate it. And then, so Backlund, going back to Backlund here. So over his last 5 games, he's averaging 4.2 shots on goal per game. I think he just shot another 5 against Philadelphia this afternoon. So he's been shooting the puck a ton. He's seeing more than 50% power play share, and he's playing between 18 and 20 minutes a night. So
Very nice.
Really like Backlund right now. 3.1 shots on goal per game on the season, over 1 hit per game, both career highs, 62 Corsi for percentage, and no red flags regarding his ish, Tevish, or IPP.
He's just always been super consistent for Calgary on that team, which right now is kind of a dumpster fire, but he seems to be fairly consistent all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then these last 2 guys in terms of forwards, I mean, Jacob Vrana, I had him on here early, and that was before he hadn't played a game for Detroit. So, yeah, I don't know. At this point, I would just keep an eye on him. If he does, in fact, get into the lineup and he does have some favorable deployment, give him a look. But for now, not worth grabbing. And then James Van Riemsdyk, left wing, right wing eligible, which is always great. He's always been sort of a consistent, or well, maybe not consistent, streaky goal scorer is what I would say. But he's a capable goal scorer, and he may get traded, right? He's one of those guys that you may look at, and maybe his deployment is a little more favorable. I also, when I put him on this list, he was playing on the top line next to Frost and Konechny. Now we know Konechny is injured, and I think JVR got bumped down to the 4th line. So just monitor that situation, but keep an eye on him. If he does get moved somewhere, maybe worth grabbing him. Moving on to defenseman here, Michael Matheson, 8% rostered, 3 games on the schedule this week. If you're looking for a defenseman that gets power play 1 duties, great option here. He's available in more than 90% of Yahoo leagues. Over his last 10 games, he's playing over 24 minutes a night, nearly 70% power play share, 1.5 hits per game, and roughly 2 blocks per game. Add to that 5 points and 1 goal in his last 6 contests, puts him on pace for 45 points over 82 games this season. And you have a player that I think is serviceable across most, if not all, formats. His IPP at 46.2 is a bit high for defensemen, so that could be concerning. But his 4.3-ish, Bruce, is below his 3-year and career averages of 6.6 and 6%, respectively.
Some room for improvement.
Yeah, so I mean, Michael Matheson's he's an interesting choice. Montreal's not a juggernaut by any means at this point in the season, but he's
Really, no.
You know, if you're in a 12-team league or a deeper league, like, this is a great option if he's still out there, and at just 8%, there's a good chance he is. Keandre Miller, kind of the opposite. He's at nearly 60% rostered, but 4 games on the schedule next week for the Rangers. He's playing on the second pairing with Captain Trouba. I mean, they've gotten better, right? They got Tarasenko. They picked up Mott the other day. The Rangers mean business. They're going to contend. He's a big part of that group, and he's on pace for 44 points, and he's contributing nearly 2.5 hits and 1.25 blocks per game.
Nice.
So not too shabby from him. 5 points and 1 goal in his last 6 games, including his first career 3-point game earlier this week.
That's good. I have him in our Yahoo or our ESPN league.
There you go. Moving on to goaltenders, I've got first up here, Karel Vejmelka. We've talked about this guy on previous episodes, but I just wanted to mention he is now 4-0-1 in his last 5 starts with a 2.20 goals against average, a .936 save percentage, and 1 shutout. Pretty incredible numbers considering the team he plays for.
His counterpart's not doing too bad either right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. The Coyotes just in general have been a surprise lately.
As one of the players put, they asked him about the team doing well here over the past couple of weeks. He goes, "Yeah, we're liking it." He says, "Management probably isn't too happy with us right now, but we're happy. We're winning."
Yeah, they'd be much happier if they had Connor Bedard in their lineup next year, but
No, definitely. But I think the players are happy. They're competitive. They're
Yep.
winning games, and
they want to win still, right? I mean, I
absolutely,
think, yeah, they want to win games. Doesn't matter.
absolutely.
But the Coyotes do play just twice next week, so keep that in mind. And I think both games take place on light days against relatively beatable teams in Calgary and Nashville. So maybe give him a look, even as a spot start. I think is a nice option. 916 even strike save percentage is a career high for Vejmelka. His 858 PK save percentage suggests that his performance has not been boosted by luck. So I like Vejmelka here. And there has been some chatter, too, that he could be traded before the deadline, too. So
Yeah,
I don't know. If there's a team out there that's contending that's still looking for a goaltender, this would be a really nice option.
yeah. There's probably a couple of teams that would probably like to improve their goaltending situation a little bit.
Yeah. All right, moving on here to Yaroslav Halak. 4 games, like I said, for the Rangers next week. 28% net share for him. Doesn't play a ton, but he's 7-0-0 with a 2.14 goals against average and a 927 save percentage in his last 7 games played.
Nice.
Yeah, just solid numbers from him. Like I said, the Rangers have gotten better. His 900 PK save percentage suggests that he's going to come back down to earth a little bit, so keep an eye on that. But, I mean, as a spot start, when he does get a chance to play, he's a nice option. So I'm giving him a look just maybe to stream this week. And then we mentioned him earlier, Philip Grubauer. Actually, I've talked about him a few times now, Bruce. I'm trying to pump his tires so you'll take him in a trade from me somehow. But 3 games on the schedule for Seattle. He's essentially taken over that starting role.
I think so.
He's played 6 of the last 8 games for the Kraken. And over that stretch, he's posted a 4-1-1 record, a 1.98 goals against average, and a 921 save percentage. Some tough matchups this week. They've got Boston and Toronto, but, I mean, he's looked really good. His PK save percentage at 800 says there's still some room for improvement. He hasn't been boosted by luck. And as I mentioned earlier, Martin Jones has been god-awful. So
That's an understatement.
if you can go grab Grubauer right now, go do it. And then the last player I'll mention here, Mads Sogard for the Ottawa Senators. Cam Talbot, I just had read yesterday, I think he's going to be out this week. And as you had mentioned, Bruce, Anton Forsberg is not going to be around for quite a while. So looks like an opportunity for Sogard to get some starts here this week.
Definitely.
Okay, no rankings update again this week. Mike had mentioned to me he was having some technical difficulties. Goaltenders were being ranked too highly for some reason, so he was going to go back to the drawing board and just tinker with a few things. So, but keep an eye on that. As soon as we can get the rankings out, we will. And with that, I guess be sure to check us out on Twitter at FHHacks, on Instagram at Fantasy Hockey Hacks. Visit the website, fantasyhockeyhacks.com. If you have questions for us, send them in at fantasyhockeyhacks@gmail.com. Bruce, thanks, man. It was good to see you again, as always. We'll see you next week.
Have a good evening.
You too. Take care.